I wanted to start with the first how this all came about was that Reverend Laura sent me an email, requesting me to speak. And she gave me some topics. And the first topic that came to me that jumped out at me was about anger. And I thought, wow, okay, Spirit, you want me to talk about anger. And so here we are to talk about something that's very important to discuss. Because I think sometimes in the spiritual world, people don't want to show that side of them. They don't want to let people know that they have anger, or even maybe if they have anger issues, quote unquote. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it, because this is the time, we are at the time in our life, at the time in consciousness where we are learning to be more and more authentic. We are learning to be more and more true to what's going on. And we're learning to honor all sides of who we are, all sides of, as Clint Eastwood said, the good, the bad, and the ugly, even though we know it's all God. It's all God. And so that when we know that, that helps us embrace these, dark sides, if you will. But, we talk about the dark side, and then we talk about the light side. And I want to make sure that we're not talking about duality. Okay, we're not talking about duality here. We're talking about a non-dual God in which everything resides within, and which everything resides within it. Like God is everywhere present, and everything has God within it. So when we are talking about anger, we're talking about God. So let's just make that very clear, okay? So, and why this is a really great topic is because you wouldn't be here listening to this recording if you did not step up to the plate in your spiritual practice. Like you've said, yes, I want to be responsible for my life. I want to co-create with Spirit my life. I want to make a difference in this world, because that's what Centers for Spiritual Living is all about. And so, and we'll start with the quote from Luke 12:48, where he says, "For those to whom much is given, much is required." We were built for this moment in time. There's no coincidence that we landed on this earth during this time of COVID, during this time of war. There is no mistake that we are here in consciousness right now in this moment, because much is given. For those whom much is given, much is required. So we're going to look at this side of us that maybe we haven't wanted to look at, and honor it and bless it and thank our anger for the gifts, because it has brought us gifts, maybe in hindsight, but it has brought us gifts. And, today the code word for anger is triggered. I'm triggered. It's not I'm angry. It's I am triggered. That's all fine. But when we think about triggered, we could also think of it as opportunity. It's an opportunity to show us the areas in our life where we need to grow, And so when you think about when we have these opportunities, these trigger opportunities, we return to that past life, if you will, a past part of our life where something seems like it was wrong. Something was wrong. And so when we perceive, because we're mammals on this earth, when we perceive that something's wrong, we immediately go into fight or flight when something's wrong, because we need to protect ourselves or protect somebody from something perceived or real. And so, so when we are in that fight or flight, we're not thinking straight. We're not ourselves. And a lot of times when it's going unmanned, this fight or flight response is unmanned, it looks and can feel and express itself as anger, because we are in fear. Sometimes we're not even, when we're angry, we really have to stop and take a look. Is this anger or is this fear? Is this anger or is this shame? We have to take a look and give words to what this truly is. And so that gives us that opportunity to, to pause. And because that pause is so important, let's go to the first slide by Stephen Covey, where he says, Between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Amen to that. Thank you, Stephen Covey. Yes, because that space is the God space. It's the space of choice. And we can't always get there when we're super angry, like rage, right? We don't have that capacity to access that space, that God space. But if we can get there before we get to that super angry spot, we can have a place of choice and choose our response, or choose differently, or choose to go for a walk so that we don't create damage in our relationships or whoever we're angry with or at. And so that space, I call it the God space. And the more I meditate and the more I do yoga, the more I have access to that space that Stephen Covey is talking about. And that in there lies our growth and our freedom. And that freedom is for the constraints of our emotions that sometimes doesn't seem like we have control over, right? So that, let's just honor that space and look for it when we are triggered, when we feel our body starting to constrict. That's red flag number one. We feel our body starting to constrict. And so there we take that breath. That holy breath that brings us to this now moment where we can choose again. We can choose again. And that's what it's all about. Finding the present moment, the God moment where everything is possible, and that we don't have to act that way anymore. We don't have to be that way anymore. We might have had anger in the past, but we don't have to do it today in this moment. Okay, so yes, let's take that holy breath right now. And then another opportunity that I know have seen and have experienced in the past up until this moment is that blame. I have seen people go into such anger and rage and when they blame somebody else for a circumstance in their life. Now, I know y'all are science of minders, right? We don't do this. We are way too spiritual for this, right? Yes. So when we notice that we're in blame, this is another opportunity for us to see where we can grow. Where can we grow? Where can we move beyond blaming others? If we go to slide number 2, there's a really great Greek proverb in slide number 2. This Greek proverb says, to blame others for your misfortune shows that you need education. To blame yourself shows your education has begun. And to blame no one shows that your education is complete. When we can get to that point, when we recognize in consciousness that it is all God and that there's a mystery beyond our understanding about what happens in this world and what happens in our life, for that matter, that we can start to surrender that there's a power much greater than ourselves that is in charge, that we have no idea. We have no idea what the great plan is. And so when we can take the attention and not point it at others and not even point it at ourselves for the mistakes that we have made. Wow, to forgive ourselves for the mistakes that we have made so that we blame no one. And that is, again, setting ourselves free from that blame energy that can trigger us or lead us into anger. Yes. So let's take another deep breath in. I'm just going to move there we go. And so what do the scriptures say about anger? What do the scriptures say? And so the Talmud tells us that we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. Let me say that again. We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. Love that. The Quran tells us, if one of you becomes angry, then he or she should stay silent. In other words, when you feel that anger in you, more than likely you will start to cause damage outside of yourself by speaking or however you choose to express it. So that's when I say, I'm interpreting that as it's time to go for a walk. It's time to meditate. It's time to do some yoga. And I'm just going to stay silent right now. Ernest Holmes tells us that anger, malice, and vindictiveness and kindred emotions like that are but subtle forms of fear. Yes, Ernest, I believe that. Anger is a subtle form of fear. So that's where we really need to stop and look, what am I afraid of? Because, you know, I'm not saying that we shouldn't get angry. I'm not saying that it's not okay to get angry. It's natural. It's a natural emotion, just like it is to be happy, to be sad. It's in the palette of human emotions. So by no means am I saying don't be angry. What I'm saying is to be aware of your anger, because even Jesus was angry when he chased the money changers out of the temple. There's stories of him. He's angry and he was turning over tables because they were exchanging money in the house of prayer. He did not like that. So it's definitely not, I'm not saying to suppress it. I'm saying we need to learn to be angry consciously and love that part of us that gets angry. Love it. Love that part of us that's triggered. Love the trigger. Love it all. Because why? Because it's all God. That's all God. All God. Yes. And in slide number 3, Thich Nhat Hanh tells us in this book called Anger, which I love this book. If someone sets your house on fire, would you chase that person who you think started the fire? Or would you tend to your house and put out the fire? That's what we're talking about, blame. So if we're over here being angry at this person, but you're the one who's full of fire inside, full of anger, full of rage, blaming that other person, would you chase that person while you're on fire? What's going to happen? Your fire's going to grow, right? So instead, tend to your house and put out your own fire. We know we can't do anything about others and their actions. The only thing we have control of somewhat is ourselves and our thoughts. So tend to your own house, put out your own fire. Find a way to do that. Find something that distracts you out of it. Go within and find out what caused it. What really was the cause? What really was the source of it all? Just so that we can heal all of that. So additionally, anger changes your perception of when you're angry, you are not seeing straight. We are not seeing with the eyes of God. So that's why it's important to take that pause, because what you're seeing might not be really what's occurring, and then you're misinterpreting. So that's a good time to pause and step away. Pause and step away so that you can get clear, because it's like you put on a pair of glasses and you're seeing everything. You're seeing everything differently because you have so much of that energy running through you. You know, they call that blind rage. You've heard of that, where people have done terrible things in a blind rage. That's because they can't see. They're not seeing with the eyes of God, and they don't have the tools to stop themselves before it's gone too far. And so what if someone's being angry with you? What do you do with it? You know, what do you do with it? I remember this Buddhist story that talks about, if someone knocks on your door and wants to give you a gift, and you look at the gift and maybe it's anger, so it says anger on it. You know, that's not your gift unless you reach out and take the gift from the person. So if someone's giving you anger, you do not have to receive it. You can say, thank you so much. I do not accept. You can say it with loving kindness, because when we come from a place of understanding, right? Because we've all been there. We've all had our anger times. So when we come from a place of understanding, like, oh, that person is blind right now. That person is experiencing some not seeing with the eyes of God. So I'm going to have some compassion, and I'm not going to accept that gift. And you lovingly walk away, step away, thank them, bless them, ask them how you can help them. Because, forgiveness is such a beautiful tool that helps everyone, including yourself. And I love this. In Luke 23:34, it says, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And we often interpret that, forgive them because they're unconscious, forgive them because they were in a blind rage. But how about if we turn that around a little bit and say, forgive them, for they know not what they do, to themselves. To themselves. Because when we are suffering inside, we are so miserable. We are so unhappy. We are just suffering. Those who are angry all the time, living in just cycle after cycle of anger, forgive them, for they know not what they do to themselves within and in their body, what that anger is doing, and in their consciousness, and the empathy that they cannot see with the eyes of God. They cannot see the freedom, the peace, and the joy that's available to them because they are stuck in that vicious cycle of anger. So when you hear that, forgive them, for they know not what they do. They know not what they are doing to themselves. And what I feel like a sadness that their view of the world, is filled with anger. And so we bless them. We bless them. So when we listen to another's feelings and we listen to them, we practice empathy. And empathy is the antidote when someone is angry with you. It's a muscle to build. But, I was watching one of Brene Brown's series, and she talked about empathetic listening. And it's when you're listening from a place of where you're present to the person, and you're not judging them. Like if they're having anger, I've had times when I see somebody anger, like, oh, there they go again, or what are they so angry about? Or that's nothing to get angry over. And all those judgmental thoughts that I've had in the past up until this moment. And empathetic listening is listening, you're fully present with the person, non-judgmentally, so they can say anything to you and you're listening to them without judgment. And here's the catch. You believe them. You believe them. What they're saying to you is true for them. And so you believe them, and that creates an empathetic listening place. Not believe them like, yeah. Not like that. Like really, like, this is their experience. This is their experience, and it's probably brought on from some trauma in the past, or maybe their spiritual practices haven't been happening, but this is true for them. How would you like to be listened to like that? For me, that's like we're being listened to by the ears of God and the heart of God, because God doesn't judge us, So if we can listen with the ears of God and the heart of God, we can practice empathetic listening. And what that does is it neutralizes the person's emotional state, whether anger, upset of any sort. It just neutralizes it. So, and it softens, because I don't know if you've been listened to in that way, but boy, you don't know what to do. You're just like, you just melt because someone's actually listened to you. It's a beautiful thing. I really encourage all of us to practice empathetic listening. Yes. Let's take a breath right here. And just know, one of my favorite affirmations when I get angry, one of my favorite ones is, I remember that I live in a friendly, trustworthy, supportive universe. And I remember that life is on my side. Life is on my side, cheering me on. So when I'm in that angry space, I just have to remember that life is on my side at all times, working for my good. And I accept that. And what that does is that helps me to dissolve and neutralize that anger energy that resides within me. I honor my anger. I believe that my anger always has something to teach me so that I can grow and grow into an even more and more aware, conscious being on this earth. I can have empathy for those when they are angry. And I just honor that emotion that without it, how could we, I mean, anger brings so much good to us too. Like it helps us protect our family, our children, you know, when it helps us show what our values are. When we're angry, it's because something that we think is not right is happening. So that shows to us what we value. So there's good things about anger. If you play sports at all, you get that anger energy, you filter it into your sports or other activities. So we're just going to honor it and appreciate what it brings to us, to our life. And I want to close my talk today because I know that anger has separated a lot of this country with people with different beliefs. And I just want to close with something that can unite us. When we have anger, it doesn't have to separate us. We can honor our anger and honor the anger of another. We can honor our beliefs and honor the beliefs of another. That's going to create a world that works for everyone. That works for everyone because there's room in this world for it all. Yes, indeed. And if we go to the last slide, I love this quote. It's the final lines in the movie Black Panther. And we all know the truth that more connects us than divides us. But in times of crisis, the wise build bridges while the foolish build barriers. We must find a way to look after one another as if we were one single tribe. And we are one single tribe. Let us build bridges instead of barriers. Let us bring people together rather than separate. We can hold a contradictory belief at the same time as holding our own and honoring both. This is how we build bridges. We can empathetically listen to those who are when they are angry because we know and recognize that we have that anger within us as well. And so I invite you to do all of these practices and be a bridge builder in this world. Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity. I'm just going to go into prayer and close with a prayer. Right here and right now in this holy moment, knowing and accepting that there is only one presence, there is only one God, one Spirit that resides within each and every one of us right here, right now, in this moment, as divine expressions. Each unique divine expression has a unique and divine perspective, has a unique and divine emotional journey to go on. And we know that it is all God. It can only be all God because God is all there is. Yes. And so we bless this moment of recognition, of recognizing the God within us, within each and every emotion, within each and every breath. I know this to be so. And I also have a prayer for anyone who woke up this morning suffering in any way. I send this prayer, blanketing you with the love, the peace, and the Holy Spirit right here and right now, blanketing you, wrapping the arms of God around you in nurturing, compassionate love. So thank you, beloveds, for this time together. I declare it to be holy right here and right now, as we all say together, and so it is. Amen, and thank you.